Everybody, whoa, hot diggity. Are you looking for more listings? And if you are looking for more listings, it's not just the listings that you're looking for. It's the ability for you to serve and the ability for you to win over and the ability for you to ultimately close and create a client for life as they want to refer you everywhere. I'm so excited. My name is Erik Hatch of Hatch Realty, brokered by Real, and of Hatch Coaching. We're located in Fargo, North Dakota. And over the last decade, my team and I have sold over 6,000 houses. Listings have been about 40 to 45% of our business throughout that. And so if you do some quick math, 40% of 6,000 is 2,400 homes. So I've touched a few listings in my day, and I feel confident in where we're going. We're going to have lots of value that we're going to bring to you here. And I'm going to challenge you to take some active notes, that this isn't just me staring and talking at you, but instead we want some active notes for you to take, because I have 4 main elements with a whole bunch of bullet points factored in, 4 main elements that you need to focus on. So if you want to win listings, if you want to service exceedingly well, let me first frame it like this. We titled this a listing consultation, and it's really dangerous if it's a consultation, right? If it's a consultation, I'm speaking at you and I'm speaking in your direction, but I'm not conversing with you, right? This should be a listing conversation. Please write down, conversation is greater than consultation. So you have to reframe our mindset on this, and we have to get ourselves in the understanding that this is a time to connect, and this is a time to build rapport. What I see happen right now is, of course, listings in this current market are gold, but they have been the backbone of real estate since forever ago. It's not simply today in which listings are the backbone. Listings are and will continue to be your most profitable venture, your best marketing that you have, your greatest opportunity in which to get more buyers. It is everything. And we need to be paying more attention to this. Listings are difficult to convert. Traditionally, people have a relationship that they're locked into, or they're looking for the cheapest. And I don't think you can compete with either of those. Let me be really clear. You're not going to win all the listing appointments. In fact, I'm a former Keller Williams agent. My Keller Williams bold coach, his name is Hank, awesome dude. Hank had said, man, I'm batting 1,000. I'm like 20 for 20 on my listing appointments this year. And I heard that and I thought, well, that's pretty awesome that you're 20 for 20. But I also thought, you know what? Like, are you going on enough appointments? Are you missing out? Like this is a business that we're looking to grow and to gain more opportunity and to gain more momentum. And if you're batting 10 for 10 or 20 for 20 or 2 for 2, whatever it may be, that's not enough appointments. What I see for people that are chasing after both Mets and have not Mets, people that know you, like you, and trust you, and people that have never met you before, a really healthy listing conversion looks like this. About 90% to 95% of all those appointments will keep. Right? A couple people may cancel right before, but usually you're going to keep 9 out of 10 or so. So that's the first percentage you need to know is about 90% of your listing appointments should keep. You should be able to win about 65%, 2 out of every 3. If you're winning more than that, you're doing really well. But you also have to ask yourself, do you have enough at bats there? If you're less than that, it means that you're probably chasing after a whole lot of have-not Mets and you are losing consistently. But either way, we have opportunity for you. Once you have that listing, I think it sells 95 to 100% of the time. I don't see another way in which it sells less than that. And so here we find ourselves set up and understanding the math that if you start with 100 people, 90 of them show up to the listing appointment, and now 65% of 90, that's going to be 2/3 of 90. So what is that? 60. Now that's going to be like 56, 57, something like that. Somebody's going to challenge my math here, but nonetheless, you should be closing over 50% of your listing appointments from the time in which you set the appointment until when it closes. So with that math at bay, let's talk about the 4 elements, the 4 corners, the 4 chapters, the 4 seasons as we find ourselves right now in this real estate game. Okay. Number 1, This is all about them. When you're on this listing appointment, it's all about them. That's the first corner, the first element. And all these four, I may refer to them as quarters or chapters, whatever it may be, they are not created equal. They are not equal in time or attention, but it's four distinct differences of what you do on a really great listing appointment. And the first is all about them. This is about finding out their motivation, their inspiration. This is about learning and growing and connecting. I want you to hear this clearly, and I want you to write this down. Write down, why do I lose? Why do I lose? It's a simple question. And the answer is because you get out relationshiped. We lose because we get out relationshiped. Somebody made them feel better. Somebody learned more about them. If you're going and giving this presentation, you're in trouble. In fact, I want to share with you some insight. Back in, I've been selling real estate since 2006, was part-time, then went full-time. And in 2012, I remember distinctly going on this listing appointment. It was set by my admin, Kim. Kim was in the National Guard, and she had a friend in the National Guard that was considering listing his house with us. I walked in and I assumed that this guy loved me because he loved Kim, like not in an intimate sort of way, but just in like a friendship sort of way. And so I spent no time whatsoever building the relationship. I instead walked through his house like we all do. And I looked at his place and I gave him some feedback as we went. And then I sat down at his kitchen table and I pulled out my trusty iPad 2. That's nice. And I pulled out this iPad 2 and I went through this presentation. It was a ripoff of Ben Kinney's presentation that I had seen at a family reunion gathering 10 years ago. And I scrolled through, and for 30 minutes or so, I told him how great I am. I told him how I'm going to get his house sold, how we're going to get him top dollar. By the way, here's why, all the reasons why I'm great. And then I said, all right, so do you have any questions? He's like, no, not really. I'm like, okay, well, if you're ready to sign, let's get rolling. He's like, I want to pump the brakes just a little bit. I want to think about this just a little. And that's all up to that point. I'm like, that's not uncommon at all for somebody to pump the brakes and not want to sign at that point of the listing appointment. It happened to me dozens and dozens of times before. And so what happened is I went back to my office, patting myself on the back the entire car ride back. And when I got there, Kim was in tears, furious with me. And she said, Erik, what did you do? I'm like, I crushed it. What do you mean? What did I do? She's like, no, he hated you. He felt like you were the slimiest, cheesiest, most aggressive salesman, and you didn't learn a thing about him. And she's hammering this to me. And at that moment, 10 years ago, I recognized I had been doing it all wrong because I had been doing a consultation. I had been speaking at people instead of with people. So all of this compounds this original piece that the first quarter, the first chapter is all about them. It's figuring out their hopes, wants, dreams, and everything else. One of the ways in which we use the tool is we use the acronym FORD, F-O-R-D. That's family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. And in that conversation, I cannot and will not leave chapter 1. I will not leave this first section until I've discovered FORD. Tell me about your family. Who lives here? Why do they matter to you? And you can't just say, well, I'm married and I have 2 kids. Awesome. Tell me about your wife. Tell me about your kids. What are their names? What are their hobbies? What do they do? You got to figure out layers, because your goal here is, and please write this down, the goal is to find a minimum of 2 connection points. And that happens as you're walking through the house and as you're asking questions with genuine interest. Now, an overarching piece of this is you should attend these functions, these listing walkthroughs. You should attend these at every given time with a notebook in hand. I'll tell you this, I get the privilege of presenting and speaking often. And there is one type of person that makes me feel great when I present. And it's not the person with the great nonverbals, although I do love a good amen, hallelujah, as I'm going. Instead, it's the person that's taking diligent notes and giving me great feedback as I'm going. So If they say, oh, this is the room in which I'm raising my daughter. Awesome. Tell me about your daughter. Well, her name's Finley. So I'm going to write down Finley, and she's 7 years old. So I'm going to write down 7 years old. What does Finley do for fun? What does Finley do when she's not at school, right? And I'm going to ask all these questions to figure out what kind of kid she is, because my goal is to find connection, at least 2 connection points. So number 1, I'm going to write down a bunch of notes. And number 2, I'm searching for 2 connection points. My job is not to infuse all about me into this, but I want to find commonality, because commonality breeds community. Now, I live in Fargo, North Dakota, as I alluded to earlier, and you kind of know a lot of people in Fargo. So if they tell me that they work at Microsoft in town, I'm going to say, oh my gosh, do you know my friend Taya? And everybody knows Taya there. But what I'm doing is I'll lean in and I'll be like, okay, yeah, tell me about your relationship with Taya. Oh, I think she's awesome. Yeah, she's great. Or she's a little bit crazy. Yeah, she's a little bit nuts, right? You're finding commonality there where you can see that this person is no longer a stranger. Remember, we lose because we get out relationshiped. And so in there, our job is to figure out what are these connection points. So this time of going through, taking diligent notes in the house, building the relationship, and seeking out forward family, occupation, recreation, dreams. You shouldn't find out just what they do. You should find out how long have they been doing it? Do they like it? What are their dreams and aspirations with their professional careers? What are their dreams and aspirations with their family and their house? What do they do for fun? And it's not just a surface level piece. You'd be amazed if you find out that this person is a diehard Minnesota Vikings fan. If you send a thank you note with maybe, and you should send a thank you note after these appointments if they haven't made their decision, or even if they have made their decision, what you do is you then customize all these touches. I need you to write down that word customization, because it is going to show up throughout this time today. Customization is such an important and vital part of getting and winning a listing. You need to make it feel like it's the only business that you have. So as you go all about them, I would tell you 15 minutes minimum, 15 minutes minimum in this listing appointment for the first chapter. Well, that's all about them. Kelly just said, what about a cameo? If you don't know what cameo is, you can hire B and C and D list celebrities to send videos. If somebody loves The Office, there's Brian Baumgartner and Kate Flannery and all these people that will do cameos for you. And I've done cameos, never done it for a listing appointment, but I've done it for coaching clients and stuff. I've sent them a cameo that aligns with their recreations, that aligns with their dreams. So you can, if somebody loves the Packers, guess what? Brett Favre will do a cameo for you. So it's an awesome way to show, I heard you, I see you, this matters, I care about you. Customization is key. So again, first chapter, all about them. Hopefully that makes sense. I want to make sure that you get all those pieces understood, and that now we're moving to the second chapter. And before we move to the second chapter, I want to name a couple of things. We're going to zoom out for just a moment. If you're showing up on these listing appointments as somebody that is an unschooled, unpracticed ruffian, and you haven't done your due diligence of practicing over and over and over again with your coworkers, the people in your office, in front of your mirror, if you haven't recorded your conversations and actually watched them back like game film, you shouldn't step into a listing appointment. You shouldn't practice on your clients. You should practice with everybody else so that when you get there, that's the big game, right? Football players, they play once a week for 16 or 17 weeks, and then playoffs maybe, right? But they play the game this much and they practice this much. And we have to think of ourselves as professionals in that sort of sense, that we should be practicing way more than we are right now. As we go into this now, let's talk about number 2. Chapter 1 is all about them. Chapter 2 is about their dreams. Ooh, this is the D in Ford, but it continues and finds its way in. Because what you're not going to do is you're not going to just segregate these chapters, and this D for dreams is now transcending. You're taking it from learning about them to learning about future them. Okay. Your goal in this conversation about their dreams is you need to figure out what is it they're running from and what is it they're running towards. Please write that down. What are they running from? What are they running towards? See, those that are running from something are seeking a new chapter. Maybe their house is too small. Maybe they don't love their neighbors. Maybe they have a growing family. Maybe they have pets and they need more space. Maybe they are getting a new job. Like they're running from something, but they're also running towards something. And you need to exhaust understanding what their motivation is. Take diligent notes as you're doing this, right? Figure out all these little steps and nuance pieces in which you can point to and say, because your job eventually is going to be to rephrase their dreams and their situation. I'll show you how to do that when we get there. But this dream section, this is going to be 5, 10, 15 minutes long. Remember, the first chapter of All About Them is a minimum of 15 minutes. It's irresponsible if you're trying to do the quickest listing presentation ever. I've gone to dozens of conferences where I've heard people pound their chest and brag and be like, I'm in and out of there in 30 minutes and I got all these great things, right? It's probably an old-timey person with a cigar as they're saying that, but nonetheless, they are proud of transactionalizing somebody. Ugh. That's not what we should be proud of. We should be proud of the relationships we build because, gang, we do all of this to not only serve people, which is what we're called to do, but we do this because we know our greatest chance at a long-standing business is repeat and referral business. So you got to get it right. You got to win this relationship. And I understand wholeheartedly that when you spend time learning about them and learning about their dreams, your chance of getting out relationship becomes less and less and less. Now, remember, chapter 2 is all about their dreams. Chapter 1 is about the game plan. We're moving to chapter is all about them. Chapter 3 now is the game plan. The title of chapter 3 is game plan. This is now a chance for you to listen continuously, take what you've heard, and now you're rephrasing it. You are reflecting it back to them. So if you took diligent notes, and let's say Kelly is my seller here, what I'm going to say is, okay, Kelly, here's what I've heard, and I want to make sure that I'm in line with this. Is you got a new job, and in addition to that, you have a growing family. Those sound like really exciting things in your life based on the energy you shared with me. And so getting into a bigger house and something that has a little more space before October hits when you're due, that's going to be a really important thing for us to have happen. I also understood that you're not looking to have your house on the market for an inordinate amount of time, right? You're a little bit fearful of a bunch of strangers in this process dragging out. And so we know that we have to get that price right and that marketing right in the very beginning. When that does happen, our goal is to get you moved and in your new place before October so you can get settled and get started in this new chapter of your life. Kelly, what did I miss there? Okay, so I'm going to reflect back what I heard, and then I'm going to rephrase it so that it's in my interpretation, and I'm allowing her to name all the things that I missed. But the great thing here in this game plan is, and I want you to write down under game plan in giant bold letters, I want you to write, ask more questions. Because here's what happens. Before, and I jumped the shark here. I went to the rephrase earlier than I should have. So please take what Erik just said and say, Erik, you silly, you're not following your notes. Go back to what you meant to say. And the first part is in this new section of the game plan is to ask more questions. What I mean by that is this. I'm going to say to Kelly, hey, Kelly, what does incredible marketing look like to you? Kelly, what does really great servicing look like to you? Kelly, help me understand what's a 10 out of 10 for communication. Kelly, what would really frustrate you in this relationship as this goes on? Kelly, what are your expectations of me? Kelly, who is it that you, or Kelly, what are your past experiences that we want to make sure that we amplify the positive and we minimize the negative? What are some of those past experiences? Help me understand what this has been like, right? I'm asking all these questions because my goal is I need to make sure that this is a customized listing for Kelly. Let me tell you about the importance of customization. Is I put a survey out on Facebook a couple of years ago, and because it's a Facebook survey where over 100 people answered, you know this is truth with a capital T. Nonetheless, I asked the question, hey, if you're considering selling your house, realtor friends, don't answer this, but anybody else, if you're considering selling your house in the next 10 or 20 years, doesn't have to be today, what's the one characteristic you look for in your realtor? Number one, that this realtor is the most award-winning and recognizable realtor in your area. Number two, that the realtor has a proven system to get you the most amount of money in the least amount of time. Number three, that this person is going to treat you as though they're their only client and they'll give you exemplary service. Which one matters to you the most? Over 100 people answered. Nobody said number one. A lot of people said, number one being most recognized and award winning. A lot of people said, I bet that's going to be a byproduct of number two and number three, but that's not what we make our decision with. And there is so much self-serving marketing that just says, look at me, I'm really great, all the time out there in the industry. And it's an irresponsible way to market. A great way to market is somebody else saying like, hey, this is really great. Like, so let me give you an example. Let's say I own a restaurant in Fargo and you all decide to come and visit me for our September coaching summit. And I'm going to tell you, listen, Allison, you got to come to my restaurant. Best food and ambiance in town. So good. And you're going to be like, okay, yep, Erik, that's fine. Yep, makes sense. I guess it's great. But then Brian shows up and he says, hey, Allison, you got to check out Erik's restaurant. Best food I've ever had in Fargo. The ambiance is unbelievable. The service is top notch. You got to check it out. Like, which one matters more, right? See, we spend all our time with us beating our chest saying this is how great we are, when realistically we are in a review generation, or we're in a review lifestyle now. And so you need to let those reviews be your marketing. Remember, we're talking about the 3 questions on Facebook, and that first question or that first response, nobody said yes to. Nobody said, I want somebody who's the most award-winning and recognizable. Number 2, the most amount of money in the least amount of time. About 20% of people said that. Those were, I believe, the high D's and the high C's of the world. And what's interesting is oftentimes a husband and wife or 2 spouses selling, one's maybe a high D and one's a high S. And so sometimes you have to change your language a little bit. You have to be able to speak to all those things. But about 20% of the people traditionally say, I'm looking for the most amount of money in the least amount of time. See, we think that's number one, and it's not. Zillow, in fact, has done a study on sellers of their biggest stressors. Here's what Zillow found out, is that the biggest stressors when it comes to selling a home that people have is not how much money are they going to make. That's number 3 on the list. Their biggest stressors are uncertainty and interruptions. Please write that down. A seller's biggest stressors are uncertainty and interruption. It's our job to speak to that. It's our job to identify that those are usually the biggest stressors for people. We spend so much time talking about the money and the market, and we don't spend enough time talking about the servicing, because 80% of people on that survey on Facebook responded and said, I want to be treated like I'm your only client, and I want exemplary service. The S's of the world are 69%. The I's of the world are 80%. And wouldn't you know it, about 80% of people that were surveyed and responded had answered number 3. So think about what you're saying in these listing conversations. Think about what you're asking. I want to go back to those questions that I was asking Kelly. Kelly, what does great marketing look like for you? And she's going to answer, and I'm going to write down everything she says. Now, every once in a while, you get somebody who says, I think I want my listing on a bulletin board all around town at every supermarket and every fast food joint so people can see it. See, we have to ask these questions ahead of time so we don't get ourselves in a hurt bag. So we're not putting ourselves in a corner that they have unmet expectations. Please write that down. By the way, unmet expectations are the biggest reason for frustration and anger and disappointment. Unmet expectations. If they expect you to put that up in the grocery store and you have no chance in hell that you're ever going to put that up in the grocery store, they're now frustrated with you. You need to thwart the unmet expectations early on. Another question you should write down, and this is such an important one, not only with sellers, but with buyers, with people on your team and your family, everything else. Kelly, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 me being meek and 10 me being brutally honest, how honest and direct can I be in this relationship? Most people, in fact, almost all people will say 8, 9, but usually everybody says 10. Like everybody's up at 8, 9, and 10, right? But I hear more 10s than anything else. So see, you have to, as you're developing this game plan, you have to ask so many questions. I love asking about their marketing expectations, their communication expectations, their servicing expectations. Hey, what's your favorite way to be communicated with? Is it texting? Is it email? Is it phone calls? I would ask them, hey, how often do you expect to hear back from us on showings? Right? I don't know if you've sold your house recently, gang, but it is a stressful time. And when a showing happens, I promise you, if they're not out in the car watching everything that's happening, or they're not watching on their Ring doorbell, seeing what everybody says, they're waiting to hear from you. And so what I would say is, Kelly, what are your expectations of feedback after showings? Now, I know perfectly well that only about 30% of people will actually give feedback when requested. But I need to ask Kelly her expectations instead of telling her how this is actually going to go. Please write down, ask, don't tell. So Kelly, what are your expectations when it comes to getting feedback from showings? Man, I expect to hear back every time. Oh, Kelly, I promise you I'm going to strive to get that. But the experience I have in the market is about 30% of people come. And so please know that every time I'm going to respond is when I actually get that. But we're going to do follow-up. Myself and my admin team are going to do follow-up 2 and 3 times to try to get a response from that. Know that that's my promise to you, but the actual response that I can't control is we only get it about 30% of the time. See, it's our job to show more than one layer of the onion, and they need to understand the why behind things. And self-discovery, please write this down. Self-discovery is your most powerful tool in a listing consultation and conversation. Self-discovery is your most powerful tool in all of this. That's, again, why you ask questions instead of just making blanket statements. So as we're in this game plan section, this now becomes fully customizable. And now, after we've asked a plethora of questions about communication and servicing and length of time, Kelly, how long do you think your house is going to sit on the market? Oh, I don't know, Eric. Everything I've seen is that it's multiple offers in just a couple of days. And gang, I need to speak loudly on this. So go ahead and turn up the volume on your phone or your computer. I'm not going to shout here to hurt anybody's eardrums, but this is a normalizing, if not shifting market right now. And the game that we played 6 months ago is a different game than what we play now. And we have to over communicate with people and help them to self-discover what's currently happening in the market. In this game plan, we're probably going to spend some time figuring out the CMA and the details. And so Kelly's going to ask me, Eric, what do you think we should list my house for? Most sellers will ask that question. What do you think we should list my house for? And I don't think you should give them the answer. If you give them the answer, if you tell them, I think we should list for $400,000, and they in their minds have a price of $450,000, you just cost them $50,000, and everything else you're about to say is met with, no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And so our job is to help them see and understand what you see and understand. See, sellers are not caught up and buyers are not caught up to today's market, because today's market looks different than it did 30, 60, 90, 120 days ago. So we have to spend the time to pump the brakes and slow down, not to just tell somebody a price, but instead to give them a chance to discover what that price is. So here's what I would say. Kelly, I want to explain to you what has happened in our market the last 2 years as we together need to decide on the right price. Notice that language, that we together will decide on the right price. Because guess what? I determine the marketing. You determine, and I would even ask these questions. Kelly, who do you think determines the marketing in this? She'd say, well, Eric, you do. Awesome. Yeah. Who do you think determines the condition of your house? And she would say, well, I do. Awesome. Who do you think determines the price of the house? Well, I guess we do. Actually, Kelly, from my experience, I think that the market determines the price, right? You and I are going to try to find that sweet spot, but the market determines the price. Our job is to interpret the market with what's happening today. And let me share with you what's happened over the last 2 years. The Johnsons down the road, they listed their house for $400,000 a couple of years ago, and it sold for $425,000. And so now the Smiths saw that the Johnsons sold for $425,000, and so they listed for $425,000, and they actually sold for $475,000. And now the Olsons saw that the Johnsons and the Smiths had sold, and so they didn't even list at $475,000. They listed at $500,000, and they got $540,000 for their house. And now here we are with you, Kelly, and the Allens are here to say, man, if they all got way more, I'm ready to go, and I'm ready to get at $540,000. So I'm going to list at $540,000, and I'm going to get $575,000. I think that's what we should list for, is $575,000. That's what Kelly's going to say. But gang, we know that that's probably not going to sell. And so we talk about what's been happening in the market, and we use data now. We're trying to fight emotion with data. And I understand that logic makes people think, but emotion makes them act. And so our job is to help them to self-discover what that price should actually be. And so what I will do is called the 3-3-3 strategy. 3 current listings, 3 pended listings, and 3 sold listings that would be really great comparables. 3 pended, 3 active, and 3 sold listings within the last 12 months. If you're in a smaller area, you may have to do a 2-2-2, or you may just do your best interpretation of it. But our job is to bring all this information to our seller, and for them to say, okay, well, based on what I'm seeing, they should be able to take a look and say, well, we have more square footage than this person. The market has, one of the best things you can do is to say, Kelly, have you seen what's happened in inflation lately? And have you seen what's happened in the stock market and in crypto? Do you believe that real estate has started to follow some of those same trends? That maybe it's not going to go up quite as fast as we thought. Now, real estate is still in a healthy place, but we need to understand that we can't price for where we think the market's going. We have to hit where it is today. And so let's take a look at all of the homes that have had price reductions here in the last couple of months. We're seeing as many price reductions as we are new listings in most markets right now, each day. Take a look at your MLS. I bet you're seeing as many price reductions as you are in new listings, or at least close to it. So I need Kelly to see that, and I need her to interpret that. Kelly, what do you think that means, right? Remember, we're devising the game plan here in chapter 3, and Kelly needs to understand what all this means. Because if I just tell her, yeah, you can't price your house at $575, that's stupid. It's not going to sell for that. It doesn't work that way. I instead need her to self-discover. And so we're going to share this information, and then I'm going to ask her about pricing. Because remember, our job together is to interpret that price. Now, as we move forward with this, I'm going to do the 3-3-3, and we're going to look at all those, and we're going to compare and contrast. Which one's bigger, which one's smaller, which one's nicer, which one's missing some amenities, which one has more acreage, which one has more garage stalls. And you're going to go through this whole list and together figure out the price. Now, here's what's really important. After you figure out the price, you need to figure out the price reduction in that appointment. This was not a conversation we had 6 months ago, 12 months ago, 18 months ago. We didn't have to worry about price reductions because those of you that are new to real estate in the last 2.5 years, here's what you have known is you put a listing on the MLS, and that's like eBay. It's the starting price. And then people usually paid way above. In the history of real estate, that has never happened except for the last 2.5 years. Never happened. Instead, you put a price and you hope to get somewhere within that margin. So see, we have to approach this differently with a different mindset and a different strategy because we can't price like we did the last 2.5 years. And so when it comes to getting the price reduction, you need to get it in the beginning before their emotions really set in. So here's what I would say. Kelly, math and not math, but studies will show that a buyer traditionally gets exposed to the listing that's new in the first 7 to 10 days, from agents emailing it out to open houses to seeing that new sign in the neighborhood to people finding it on Zillow and realtor.com. Does that feel accurate, Kelly, that about 80% of people are going to find that house in the first 7 to 10 days? Well, yeah, that makes sense, right? And people shop on the internet mostly, and then they're going to drive by and things in their neighborhood. And so, yeah, it makes sense that this house will be exposed to 80+% of the audience in the first 7 to 10 days. Kelly, because we are still in a seller's market where there is way less inventory than there are buyers, it means that there's more buyers than there are houses, right? We need to understand that. So, Kelly, do you agree there's more buyers than there are houses? Okay, Kelly, do you agree that if your house sits on the market for 7 to 10 days, 80% of those buyers said no to your house? And then you just shut up. Kelly, do you understand that 80% of the buyers are saying no to your house? If we don't price it right, they don't like the condition, they don't like the location, but they've been exposed to it 80% of the time, and they've said no to it. And so my experience will show that we have to adjust price quickly to try to re-engage them before your house becomes tainted. Kelly, if you saw a listing that had been on the market for 6 months with no price reduction, what would you say? What would you and your husband say as you looked at that on the MLS? Well, my guess is you're probably going to say that what's wrong with that house, right? We want to make sure that we don't taint your house. And so we have to reintroduce it to the market because, Kelly, I know you're hiring me there. You're assuming the business, but Kelly, I know you're hiring me to sell your house. And my job is to give you really great advice throughout this entire process. And if you wait for the other 20% to maybe be exposed to your house and maybe like it when 80% said no, I think that's a bad move, Kelly. So let's agree that if your house doesn't get any serious interest or any offers on it in the first 7 to 10 days, we're going to write into the contract right here that we will reduce price by 5%. Then, if need be, you provide example after example of why that actually will make them more money. Because we all know that the quicker a home sells, the more money it will sell for. That's why you ask these questions. Hey, Kelly, when do you think a house sells for the most? On day 1, if it gets an offer, on day 30, if it gets an offer, on day 60, if it gets an offer? Which one? Rank those for me. Well, I bet day 1, you get the best offer. Day 30, you get the next best offer. And day 60, you get the worst offer. That's true. So let's make sure that we do that for you as well, right? You have to talk through all these things as you're devising this game plan. Now, this game plan section, it's going to take anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes is my guess. This game plan chapter is a really important one because you are asking such strategic questions that's going to set you up to then give the reflection that I did a few minutes ago, to repeat back everything that you've heard about communication and marketing and servicing and expectations. I would also ask, hey, I'm always curious, are you speaking to any other realtors as you're looking to make your decision, or do you feel like I'm going to be the best representation for you? So now we get into the details. And as we get into the details, that is chapter number 4, final section. We are at details now, and the details are when you're articulating every piece. We have like a 30-page listing guide, because I promise you, they're not hearing most of the things you're saying when it comes to details. Too many people jump into the details early on, like I did with my iPad 2 10 years ago. I jumped into the details before I won the relationship. Hold on the details until you have their trust. But here's the question every single one of them is waiting to ask. And maybe they ask it right away. Hey, Hatch, what do you cost? And how you respond to this will determine the likelihood of you getting the listing. I am convinced of it. The answer should not be, I am the cheapest. If you're competing, I would find out and say, well, what are you hearing from my competition? Hey, that Yahoo over at ABC Realty, he'll do it for 5%. Awesome. Yeah, that sounds like it's a tempting thing. I got to tell you, I usually find out that you can have it done right or you can have it done cheap, but you can't have it done. You can't have both, right? I love looking at what kind of car they drive, right? If you take a peek in the garage, and if they're driving anything above a Toyota Corolla, it's easy to say, well, I can tell you're somebody that certainly values quality over quantity. Looking at your house, looking at your clothes, looking at your watch, looking at your cars, I can tell that you're somebody that really values things that are done right. And certainly I'm going to be that right choice for you. So now when they say, hey, Erik, how much do you cost? Your response needs to be this. Ooh, I was waiting for you to ask that. This is my favorite thing to talk about. Let me say that again. Ooh, This is my favorite thing for you to, or excuse me, I've been waiting for you to ask. This is my favorite thing to talk about. See, if we sheepishly tiptoe through this and we don't know how to defend our commission, we are about to be out negotiated by our sellers. And especially when there's competition there, it is an irresponsibility for us to just meander through and for us to just say, well, I'm at 6%, but if they're at 5, I'll do it at 5 also. Some of you have not practiced this very much. And I got to tell you, go in and say, hey, it's my favorite part. I love talking about this. Now, what I do, and I stole this from Ben Kinney, and this is, I think, a powerful visualization. And each one of your markets is going to be different. But what I'll do is I'll take business cards. I'll pull out 7 of my business cards and I'll lay them on the table. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Kelly, this each business card represents 1% in the transaction. 1%. Our traditional listing commission, you don't pay anything until it closes, but our traditional listing commission is 7%. Now, let me explain to you where that goes. And in fact, I'd maybe even hold back on laying out all 7, and I just put out for the first 3 and say, it's market standard in our industry that we pay 3% to the agent that brings in the buyer. Does that sound common? Is that something you've heard before? And sometimes people are like, yeah, totally get it. And other times people will say, no, I thought it was less than that, or I thought that the buyer paid, right? So you have to explain in full and don't just assume that you know. So you lay out 3 or 2.5, whatever is standard in your market. I just turned on the fan because I'm getting hot in this little box office of mine. So I'll lay out those 3 cards and I'll say, Kelly, what do you think the advantages and disadvantages are if we choose to pay this 3% or less than that? Well, my guess is if we pay 3%, an agent may be excited that they're going to get a full paycheck. But if we pay less than that, they may be less advantageous on wanting to show the property or to endorse it. I mean, that's the goal. That's the self-discovery piece that you're trying to get them to. Now, let's explain the other 4%. Number 1, I got to pay my brokerage, Kelly. Everybody has to pay their brokerage. It is a necessary evil in all of this. And so I have to pay my brokerage. And this first 1% goes towards that. The second percent, the second business card, this goes towards the marketing of your property. Now, we spend, and this is a true number, we spend $100,000 a month on marketing and lead generation to try to find buyers for your property. And in fact, we have a list of tens of thousands of buyers that are already salivating, hoping to see your property. Again, that's why we have to get that price right away. And so this marketing percentage is how we're going to help to get your house sold. Now, this third one is the servicing of Kelly, I'm really confident in what I can do to help sell your house, but I also understand what I'm not very good at. And I move fast and I sometimes miss details, and I want to set you up for great success. And so I make sure that I surround myself with a team of people that are great servants. That's not servants of me, but servants for you. These are people that are hired and equipped to give you exemplary service. They're all the details, and they're a really great insurance policy to make sure that this gets taken care of. Because you told me, Kelly, how important it is to have really great servicing and communication. And this is the team that will deliver on that. This final card, number 7, this is how I profit. And I know Uncle Sam's going to come in, and I'll even tear the card in half. And I say, Uncle Sam's going to come in and take his share. But that's why I'm at 7%. What questions do you have? And they're going to say, yeah, makes sense. Or they're going to say, yeah, I can't pay 7%. So after that, there's 2 steps. Step number 1 is this. You're just going to simply rephrase and reflect. Kelly, you told me that great marketing and great servicing were really important to you. If somebody does it at 5% or 5.5%, what of everything that's on the table here, these business cards, which one do you think that they're going to not do? Are they going to give you less marketing? Are they going to give you less servicing? I know you told me that you've had some horror stories of working with some bad realtors in the past, and I want to make sure that we prevent that. Now, I can't prevent everything, right? There's still some problems that'll happen, but we have a really great plan to help you win here, and this plan is customizable, and I want to make sure you all understand that. So that's the first piece, is you're going to challenge that seller by simply saying, what's the other guy not going to do? Right? Because the cost is not equal, right? The value is not equal. So what are they going to do less of that you're going to do more of? Because if you do your job right, you've listened well, you've asked great questions, and now you can reflect back to them on this. So that's the first piece that you can do. The second piece that you can do is what's called the feather technique. The feather technique works like this, and we do this on our listings all the time. We start at 7% and we average 6.4% on our listings. Here's how that works, because we don't get them all at 7%. And I understand that that's a stretch, but we are entering into a season in which we will be able to charge more. Now, let me be very clear on this. The only way you should charge more is if you are worth more. If you are providing exemplary marketing, if you are providing lots of leverage and servicing. And so we start here at 7% plus a $495 transaction fee. As we negotiate, and they're like, yeah, I can't, I can't, and I won't pay 7% if that's the way it's going to be. Hey, listen, let me cut that $495 fee for you. That's the first feather drop. They're like, yeah, no, not going to work. Okay. I have permission. I know I can go to 6.5%, and we're going to do all those things. I want to make sure that we can, squeeze this a little bit, but we'll be at 6% plus the $495. Yeah, not going to happen, dude. Not going to happen. So then you go to 6.5 without the $495. Then you go to 6 with, and 6 without, and that feather falls 6 times, right? And you have different negotiation points. See, a lot of times we're just giving it away, and we're just saying, well, if they're at 5, I'll just match that. You don't have to match if you're of more value, gang, but you have to do all the lead up, all the questions before you ever get to that in order to maximize your commission. It is the energy that you bring and the excitement, and not the feeling of defeated, that's going to get you. And by the way, watch this. This one trick that I'm going to teach you here, this is going to make you thousands and thousands of dollars in the next year. I promise you this. If you work on your listings and you use this one trick, thousands and thousands of dollars. You just gotta listen. You gotta buy my book and leave a review if this actually works for you. Okay, let's pinky promise right now, everybody. Here we go. Pinky promise. You're gonna buy my book and leave a review, so I can make $5 there. But ultimately, this is the move. When you're doing the feather technique, and you're at 7% or 6.5%. Hey, listen, Kelly, I know you want to save some money, so let's put it at 6.5%. But I'm going to discount that commission an additional $2,000. Okay. It's the best I can do, but let's sign this now and get it rocking. Now, the average sales price in the United States right now is over $400,000. And if I discount a 0.5%, that's $2,000. But think about it. Like, my guess is we're not dealing with a little margin like this when we're talking percentages. We're dealing with a big margin. So maybe it's not even $2,000. Maybe it's $1,000. Hey, let's be at 6.5%, but I'll discount you $1,000. Well, guess what? That actually just made you an extra $1,000, right? If you're dealing with the average commission price. So when people hear dollars, it feels like more than a percentage. That's the underlying theme of that. Dollars feel like more than a percentage. And so get your feather technique figured out, see what it is that you're willing to drop to and negotiate with, and then use that as a strength. And as you use that as a strength, you don't have to drop the whole percentage. You just need to drop some cash, because if you tell them I'm going to drop this $1,000 or $1,500, it's still cheaper than you dropping a full 0.5%. Does that make sense? Hope that makes sense. All right, I'm going to run out of time here. If you are watching live and have some questions, now is the time to throw it in there, but I'm going to leave you with just a couple of things. If you can, you should be trying to do this in a 2-step phase. And I know it seems redundant, and if you can do it in one, that's great. But the step number 1 is you do it on their turf. You do the listing conversation on their turf to see about them, to learn about them, to win the relationship on their turf. And then Like, I actually think it's kind of irresponsible to go into a house and to have the price figured out of what you're going to list it for, because that means you're actually not soaking things in, and you're not given a chance to say, well, what did I just learn about this as I adjust the price? Some of you can adjust on the fly, but I think a second appointment in office is a surefire way for you to get that under contract. In fact, I've only seen it not work a couple of times. So let's say today on Tuesday, you go to their house and you say, let's do this. I want to crunch some numbers, and I want to dive into some things, and I want to give you an understanding of everything that we offer. And so let's plan on meeting Wednesday at 3 p.m. at my office. I know right now it's Tuesday, so we'll meet tomorrow if that works with your time. I want you to see the team that's going to be representing you, and I want you to see and feel and understand why we're different. If you can get them on your turf, I think you got it. I think you got it. You're, again, establishing and creating all these customized touches and that sort. And so there is your chance to win, and win really, really big when it comes to listings. I know there's things I didn't cover, but we are, of course, short on time. So there's a couple of things I need to let you know. Number one, we have what's called an SOP, a standard operating procedures event that's coming up here in later July. We will send out emails and details for that. But this SOP event, oh my gosh, it is going to be so good. It's a live stream event on Thursday, July 21st from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. We're going to send out a discount code for those of you watching live right now. If you post on our YouTube channel, if you're watching the replay, we'll get you that discount code as well. But we want you to sign up for this. And we have the perfect listing consultation done by Rachel Novak, one of the best listing agents of the country. She's going to take what I talked about here and even refine it even better. We have buyer consultations. We have how to grow your team, how to work with your sphere of influence and past clients, how to grow and attract for your business. We are giving you so much value and a literal blueprint for success. In addition to that, my partner Robbie and I just completed writing a book. I got it in my hands today. It's called The Perfect Real Estate Agent Blueprint. You can pre-order it right now at hatchcoaching.com. And we would love, love, love to have you as a part of that. So by all means, please go and pre-order that book. We're shipping them in just a couple of weeks. And then finally, we have a coaching summit in September in Fargo, North Dakota, a coaching summit in Fargo, North Dakota. Oh my gosh, Fargo is so cool if it's not winter. And we're going to have 350 to 400 of the top industry professionals. And this is an event you do not want to miss out on. So what I need you to do is go to Hatch Coaching. In the email we're sending you as well later today, you'll get information on how to sign up for it. We'll even give you a little discount if you sign up now. And this is going to be huge. If you want to see the refined listing presentation, that again comes from our standard operating procedures event that's happening on July 21st. You can go to hatchcoaching.com or watch your email, and we'll be sending you information for that. But this SOP event is going to be so kick butt. So I am going to hit stop on the record. If anybody's here live in the room, I'll answer any questions you have. Otherwise, have a beautiful day. Thanks for being here.